How we doing? Gosh, my microphone. I understand why it doesn't get any feedback. Does it now? Does it now? Hopefully I'm not breathing into it. No, that's why.
Is that better? I think that's way better, actually. So there we go. So today we're going to talk fantasy, of course, as we always do. And I'm going to look at a league that I was just in. It's a keeper league. We just finished not too long ago. Um, and I posted on my Instagram who's winning, and um, my boy Eric Dobbin says it's him. And looking at his roster, I really don't think it is. So, and I'm really confident in my roster. I think my roster has a chance to really compete for a championship in this league. And I want to show it to you guys. So, let's see. Chrome tab. There we go. Share that real quick. And okay, I do not like that. There we go. Picture in picture. And here we are. So here's my team. We got Aaron Rodgers, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Aaron Jones, Antonio Gibson, Dallas Goddard, Raheem Mostert, and Cortland Sutton. So I already did some preseason trades. So I started by trying to trade for Raheem Mostert because I felt not so good about my running back depth, even though at the time I had Chris Carson behind Aaron Jones and Antonio Gibson, and Chris Carson is a darn good RB3 to have. But I wasn't sure about like the health of Chris Carson and the fumbles and all that. And Antonio Gibson, he was just a rookie last year, so who knows if he's going to continue doing what he's doing. And Aaron Jones, I feel really safe with Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is one of the safest running backs that you could grab. So I can feel completely fine with Aaron Jones being my RB1, especially since he has a potential to be a top 5 running back. I don't think has a potential to be the RB1, which sucks. I think one of these weaknesses on my roster is that I don't have anyone that could be wide running back one at their position. I mean, number one at their position in general. So, so I traded for Raheem Mostert. I traded like Nyheim Hines and what did I trade? I'm going to look at, let's see. I'm trying to look at where you can find the transactions. There's a chat. I don't know. It's easy to find on the. There it is. It's easy to find on like the app. The app is definitely easier to navigate. So here are all the moves here. Kicking it with Kareem and Eric Dobbin. I mean, I forget who kicking it with Kareem is, but yeah, I also waived. The last time I made a move was when I waived Devin Funchess because I was just like, why is Devin Funchess so far down the board? And then I saw that Nico Collins was on the waiver wire, so I picked him up. This is a 25-man roster, by the way, so there's a lot of players that aren't on the waiver wire So you really had to ace your draft. So we're going to go down. All right. Yeah, so I made 3 trades already. So the first one is I get Raheem Mostert and I traded Curtis Samuel and Naheem Hines. I think that this could be an absolute stupid move because Curtis Samuel could go off. But at the same time, what wide receiver did well with that Dolphins offense when Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback? I kind of have an issue with that. And it's kind of like the same situation. So the only wide receiver I like in that offense is Curtis Samuel. I mean, not Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin. And I think Naheem Hines can, but Curtis Samuel could absolutely do the opposite in fantasy. Like he could be a really good flex option. I would not be surprised if that happened. But I also traded Naheem Hines, who I think is going to be a bust. If Carson Wentz starts playing, there's not going to be as much throwing to the flat anymore as what Philip Rivers did a bunch, and that's how Naheem Hines got most of his points, as well as Marlon Mack's coming back, and Jonathan Taylor is still going to get a huge load of carries. So I really just don't think that offense is going to be as efficient with Naheem Hines on the field because they're not going to be dumping it off as much anymore. Because Philip Rivers, he's notoriously known for just throwing it to the running back. So, and then I got Raheem Mostert, and Raheem Mostert, he could have an amazing first 5 weeks, and then they're gonna have Trey Sermon come over. But if I get that value out of my second flex option for Raheem Mostert for the first 5 weeks, I'm cool with it because I'd rather take that than having Naheem Hines, most definitely. So I traded with Logan Wheeler there, and it could be a great trade for either of us. I don't think there's anything in the middle. I think either one of us has a great trade or one of us has a bad trade. I don't think there's anything in the middle. I really don't. So, yeah, that's what happened there. And then I was like, I'm not sure if I'm really confident in Cooper Kupp because I did get burned by him last year. Even though Matthew Stafford is there, I'm just not sure if he's going to score enough touchdowns. I don't know if he's that type of guy, And this is not a PPR. If it was a PPR league, I would probably keep Cooper Kupp. And, but I went with a guy in Allen Robinson who could have a higher ceiling this year than I think anybody expects with Justin Fields potentially coming in. So, and I think this is about as even as a trade I could have made for Allen Robinson because I also get Mike Davis, who is a 5th round running back compared to a 3rd round running back, Chris Carson. But Allen Robinson is a 3rd round wide receiver compared to a 4th, 5th round wide receiver, Cooper Kupp. So I think it's a really even trade here. And I think I do lose points making this trade, but I get a more consistent option at wide receiver with Allen Robinson. I'm guaranteed at least 50 points. I'm guaranteed at least 50 points just off of receptions. And I get Mike Davis, who is the unquestioned starter in Atlanta. And, he could wet the bed, but I also have his handcuff in Javian Hawkins, even though it could also just be Quadri Olesen or Cordero Patterson who starts over him, if that's really ever the case. But I do have Javian Hawkins, who I'm a big fan of. I drafted, I think, way too early, but that's all right. So now I was thinking of a wide receiver tandem of Keenan Allen and Allen Robinson. That is a lot of points just off receptions right there. Now, the touchdowns could be a different question. I will give him that. But I love my wide receiver depth. I've got Laviska Shenault, Cortland Sutton behind them. Marvin Jones. And I said I picked up Nico Collins, who you don't know what the heck's going to happen in Houston. Like, anybody could be the wide receiver too. I think Brandon Cooks is an unquestioned wide receiver 1, so I'll give him that. But hey, Nico Collins was drafted in the 3rd round. He was their 2nd pick overall in the whole dang draft. Behind Davis Mills. So I do like that trade for me, because I do like my depth now. I do like my depth, at all positions really, because I'll tell you about my tight end and not position and how I feel about that. And then we started to make some big trades here. So Logan Wheeler, I think this was Logan Wheeler, traded with Jamie. Of course, Jamie had to drop Cam Akers for Donovan Peoples-Jones because he auto-drafted the last pick. So I believe... Yeah, let's check real quick. I believe this is Logan Wheeler. Is it? No, I think this is Logan Wunderlich. Yeah, it is. Never mind. So Trey Lance, Kenny Gainwell, Marlon Mack, all goes to all goes to Logan Wunderlich. For Tony Pollard, Jacoby Myers, 9th round pick. Excuse me. And my TV stopped playing for some reason. Yeah, I don't know what Jamie was thinking here. I really don't. I mean, what value are you going to get out of Tony Pollard or Jacoby Myers? Like, you just traded away a potential starter at QB. Like, Trey Lance was playing amazing in camp. He could be a potential keeper, to be honest. Like, if you really wanted to keep him, you could have, but it's all right. And then we got a bunch of stupid trades because people will just want to do trades and stuff, which is okay. But round 3 and 4 traded from Logan to Derek Rold. I think that's, I can't remember. That's Noah. And then around 9 and 10 traded there. And then here's a ginormous trade here. 4 players and a pick exchange to each team here. So Logan Wunderlich gets Tyler Boyd, DeAndre Swift, Kareem Hunt, Marquise Brown. That's 2 interesting wide receivers. I think Tyler Boyd could have another pretty decent year, although I do think he's up to being the wide receiver 3 in Cincinnati, so that's kind of an issue there. And then a 6th round pick. And Derek Rold, which I'm assuming they have Derrick Henry. They get Kenny Galladay, Brandon Ayuk, Kenny Gainwell, and Ronald Jones. Now, this is really interesting because I do think Logan got the better running backs. I mean, DeAndre Swift, Kareem Hunt, that's pretty cool. I mean, I think Logan's running back depth is absolutely insane now. Like, now we'll see what I think. DeAndre Swift could be an absolute bust, in my opinion. Kareem Hunt, on the other hand, I mean, if this was PPR, I would have been more comfortable with it. But I mean, Kareem Hunt, apparently his role is growing, could grow larger in this Browns offense. Like, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt could absolutely just split the carries. So, yeah, Marquise Brown, I do think is a bust too, but I don't think he's. I think he could be out of the league here pretty soon. So, but so pretty good running backs. We don't know about the wide receivers. I mean, DeAndre Swift was a 3rd round pick. Kareem Hunt, 5th round pick at running back. That's pretty good running back depth you got there. And we'll get to my later trade here soon. Kenny Golladay, Brandon Ayuk, 2 good receivers. We got to see what Kenny Golladay does, man. I really don't think he's going to have that much. I mean, because it's the same thing that started. He gets injured before the season, and we were just hopeful, like, okay, Kenny Golladay is going to be fine. He was a 2nd round pick last year. Kenny Golladay is going to be fine. He's going to be fine. And he gets like injured pretty much the whole season. He only played like 3 or 4 games for me, and I got burned by him. So I tried to avoid drafting Kenny Golladay because injury issues, man. It's tough. And with all the other weapons that Daniel Jones has there with Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley and Kadarius Toney, I just don't know if he's going to get enough of the load as people might expect, even if he is healthy. And who knows even if he is healthy, if he's going to come back the old. I do love Brandon Ayuk though, so I do like that there. And he gets a round 1 pick. So this is basically a 5th round pick, considering that we get to keep 4 players. It'd basically be a round 5 pick, right? Yeah, it'd be a round 5 pick in a regular redraft. So, yeah, man, I think losing out on 5 rounds. I mean, 5 round difference is definitely nuts. And Noah tried to trade me Kenny Golladay later, and I didn't want to. He wanted Jamal Williams, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So he said that I would trade my 3rd round pick, and he would get a 9th round. No, I would trade my 3rd round pick, and I would get a 9th round pick, along with getting Kenny Golladay, and then Jamal Williams would go to his team. But instead, I traded with Logan because Logan at this time, he just wanted to get trades done. He wanted to remake his team. And he said, give me Jerry Jeudy and Jamal Williams, and I'll give you Tyler Boyd, David Johnson, and Laviska Shenault. And I was shocked when I saw this trade offer because I thought, again, Tyler Boyd, even though he could be the wide receiver 3 in Cincinnati, he always outperforms his ADP. He always does. So he's always like a borderline. He's always a good flex option to have if you really need it. And I don't know if I do. And I just wanted more wide receiver depth because, again, I just love having depth, So, especially with, the waiver wire being so thin now because of 25-man rosters, I wanted to just build up my depth. And I got David Johnson here. And, no matter what you think about David Johnson, I mean, to have him as like your RB6 or something, that's got to feel pretty good, in my opinion. So I don't even know what running back he could be for me. I mean, because I have Antonio Gibson, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert, Mike Davis. He's like my RB5 at most, I should say. So I gotta say, David Johnson is your RB5. I think you got to be pretty happy with that. And he's still gonna get a load of carries. I mean, I don't think that's out of the question at all. So, and then we got Laviska Shenault, who I think this is one of the I think this might be the best piece in the whole thing. Because I do think Laviska could be the wide receiver one in the Jags offense led by Trevor Lawrence. He was a second-round pick. He was a 10th pick in the second round last year. And he put up 600 yards. You don't like how the touchdown total, but again, he was not playing with ideal quarterback play. So I think, Shenault, I think that the Jags like to use him in more of a traditional wide receiver role instead of a gadget role. So, I just don't like, with DJ Chark and his injuries and stuff like that. I just don't know if I would even try to go out and get DJ Chark really, because I just don't think I think he's really fallen off. But that's just my opinion. So, but I'm really happy about this trade. I mean, Jamaal Williams could actually be he could actually break out, because again, the coach said, Dan Campbell said that he imagines Jamaal Williams and DeAndre Swift as a 1-2 punch. So Jamaal Williams could get a lot of carries in that offense, and he was pretty efficient with his carries in Green Bay. So I'm still pretty happy about it. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, I wasn't sure about Jerry Jeudy. I also already had Courtland Sutton, so trading Jerry Jeudy made this decision a lot easier than maybe a normal person would have it. I just like Courtland Sutton a lot more than Jerry Jeudy, and I drafted Jerry Jeudy earlier than Courtland Sutton, I think. And I just saw Courtland Sutton just keep dropping and dropping and dropping, like 2 rounds in the draft, and I was just like, I have to take Courtland Sutton. So I eventually just turned Jerry Jeudy and Jamaal Williams into Tyler Boyd, David Johnson, and Laviska Shenault. That's great depth. I mean, I don't imagine any of them starting down the line, except for maybe Laviska Shenault. So yeah, I like my wide receiver depth because, again, I get Nico Collins in there, and somebody added Cam Akers for some stupid reason. And Bryan Edwards goes too. That's pretty cool. Eric dropped Jimmy Garoppolo for Jared Goff. That's interesting. And actually a pretty good idea to do, because Jared Goff is going to be a starter the whole year. But Jimmy Garoppolo, we're not sure. Trey Lance could come in and be an absolute beast. So I get that. Quintez Cephus was dropped for Josh Palmer. He's going to the Chargers. I like that. I like that a lot. So yeah. So we're going to take a quick look at my team again. And I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, because there was no way I was going to draft him before the news came out that he was going to come back. Do I think he's going to pass for 48 TDs again? Absolutely not. Do I think he's a top 6-7 QB? Absolutely, yes. I think he's going to throw for at least 36 to 40 touchdowns. I don't think that's out of the question whatsoever. I do think he's going to throw for over 4,000. I mean, the rushing potential, obviously not there, but he is very efficient with his throws. Now, if Aaron Rodgers isn't anywhere near the same quarterback he was last year, then I'm kind of have an issue, because Ryan Fitzpatrick is backup quarterback. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he could put up absolutely insane fantasy points, but if he's a starter all year for Washington, but he could also absolutely just be terrible because of his potential of constantly turning the ball over. In the offensive line, he could be injured because of it. That sort of thing. Now, I want to get to my tight end position. Dallas Goedert. I felt really confident about drafting him this year because I thought Zach Ertz was done for. I thought he was done for in Philadelphia. There was all the rumors coming out about he wanted to trade and he just wanted to be done with the organization. And now he comes over to training camp, and him and Dallas Goedert are, splitting reps, which is not good for my sake because, Dallas Goedert, obviously my starting tight end. I don't know where he drafted Goddard. I think I drafted him. I can't remember. Keenan Allen, my 3rd round pick. I think Chris Carson was Keenan Allen was my 4th round pick. Chris Carson was my 3rd round pick. Cooper Kupp was like my 5th round pick. I think Dallas Goedert my 6th round pick. Yeah, so basically, Zach Ertz is still there. So that's going to be an issue. I did not think Zach Ertz was going to still be there when I drafted Dallas Goedert. I thought he was going to get a whole bunch of targets considering the wide receiver position over in Philly is so thin. All they have is Devontae Smith. And, Jalen Reagor only had like 300 yards receiving last year. It was not good. But with, who knows? Because with Jalen Hurts only started around 5 games, I think. So I don't know. We're just betting on a potential that Dallas Goedert has not proved to have. But I am confident in my wide receiver position still because I have Gerald Everett, who could be a big boom player at the tight end position with Russell Wilson being there. He hasn't surpassed 500 yards at receiving like Dallas Goedert has, and he only had 1 touchdown last year. But that was with Jared Goff. I do think he could break out with the Seahawks because, Pete Carroll spoke really highly of Gerald Everett having a pretty good year. So I'm really confident in Gerald Everett being my backup tight end. And let me just explain my running back depth again because I forgot about Damian Harris. Damian Harris could also break out. Damian Harris rushed for 600 yards. He's a clear-cut starting running back for the Patriots, and the Patriots are going to run the heck out of the ball. He was a 3rd-round pick a couple years ago, and he wasn't very good for fantasy last year, but with Belichick saying that he is the starting running back is encouraging. You just wonder about, and he's very efficient with his carries. You just wonder, is he going to get enough touchdowns for him to, prove his worth? Because, he is a 7th, 8th round running back, starting running back. That is pretty good. But you just wonder about the touchdown potential because, Cam Newton. If Mac Jones is the quarterback, Damian Harris's touchdown potential is just fine. But if it's Cam Newton's going to be taking a lot of those red zone carries away from Damian Harris. So you just never know. But I love my running back depth. Aaron Jones, Antonio Gibson, Mike Davis, Damian Harris, Javian Hawkins, Tevin Coleman. These 3, I'm not sure about. These 4, actually, not so sure about at all. I kind of feel like they're wasted picks now. But Tevin Coleman I could actually be okay with because he could start in New York, but he could also not. It's really throwing it up in the air there. So Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think it's definitely a sleeper wide receiver, same with De'Ami Brown. And Tyler Boyd, of course, and Nico Collins. I've got a lot of good wide receivers here. And we Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones, Cortland Sutton. I've got a lot of good wide receivers, I think. And then, of course, David Johnson be my RB 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever. I didn't draft a backup kicker or defense because I think that's just stupid. You're just wasting a draft pick, in my opinion. Just take the loss that week, or just pick up a kicker or defense off the waiver wire. So yeah. Now I'm gonna go through one of my mock drafts on Sleeper here. Just gotta stop sharing here. Man, beautiful day, beautiful day. So go on the Sleeper app. If it's not even trying to load. Wow. Whoa. So I went through some mock drafts. It was a 12-team PPR, and I only went through one actually. So I'm gonna do this a lot. Which Sleeper tab is it? I don't freaking know. Oh, of course it's that one. I don't want that one. I want the other one. This one. No, not that one. Why does it do this? My gosh. Like, when it pulls up the tabs, it's just like sleeper. No, I want this one. Thank you. So, as you can see, my draft was right here. Right here. No defenses, kickers or defenses, which I think is awesome. That's awesome. So I really like this draft. This is against actual people, no bots. So it definitely made it more authentic, I'd say. So let's look at my roster real quick. It's down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Patrick Mahomes at QB. I'm really not sure how I feel about drafting Patrick Mahomes in the third round, especially when it's in this mock, but there's no one else I really wanted at that spot. I was looking for a running back, and I didn't like DeAndre Swift. And I thought, Keenan Allen isn't exactly a league winner. I'm not very sure about Terry McLaurin. I think he could maybe disappoint with his he could disappoint. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust, but he could disappoint depending on where he's drafted. I thought about CeeDee Lamb, but I feel like that was a round too early, in my opinion. So I just took Patrick Mahomes here. Now, if there was a running back that was still there, if I couldn't believe guys like David Montgomery and Clyde Edwards-Helaire was taken in the second round. So I was really depending on David Montgomery to kind of, stay there until my pick. But once David Montgomery was there, I took Patrick Mahomes. But if you take a running back here at the 3-2, I mean, you still have a couple rounds where you could get a top tier running back. I mean, quarterback. I mean, Kyler Murray lasted all the way to the end of the third round. And Lamar and Josh Allen went in the fifth round. That's when I was like, man, I could have had David Montgomery at the running back instead of Kareem Hunt, and I would have taken my quarterback right here with, Josh Allen coming right before me, and then Lamar Jackson just right there after me. But I got Dalvin Cook at the 1-2, got DK Metcalf at the 2-11. Felt pretty good about both of those guys. Both of those guys have running back 1 and wide receiver 1 potential, so I love that. And of course, Patrick Mahomes, QB1 potential. So most of the weeks you're winning those matchups. So that's what I like about that. Then I drafted Kyle Pitts in the 411. I thought he fell pretty far. So to get him at the 411, I thought was pretty cool. And I don't really look at him as a tight end, like, oh, it's a tight end, I guess I gotta take a tight end. I was actually really excited to take Kyle Pitts because of the potential that he has. And, for him to prove his draft stock, I mean, he's got the greatest tight end rookie season of all time. But with the prospect that Kyle Pitts is, and the amount of targets he's going to get, I don't think that's out of the question for him to have the greatest rookie tight end season of all time. I really don't. Because he isn't just a tight end. They're going to line him up at receiver. They're going to line him up as a tight end. They're going to line him up in the slot, which is crazy, but Matt Ryan's going to love this guy. You can't look at him as just a tight end. He's more than a tight end. So, it's just one of those picks. So he's got to have the greatest tight end season of all time. He is not like any of those tight ends we've seen. So it's not out of the question for sure. I took Kareem Hunt as my RB2. I needed to take a running back. And with this being PPR, I felt comfortable having Kareem Hunt as my RB2. Now, obviously, it's not ideal, but I feel comfortable about it because I have Dalvin Cook. Most of the points are going to go to him anyways, so I'm not too worried. And then for my wide receiver 2, I took Ja'Marr Chase. So I took like 4 rookies because I feel really good about this rookie receiver class. So I was like, okay, let me take Ja'Marr Chase. It's my wide receiver 2. I think that's pretty okay. I do think he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in Cincinnati. Although I've heard he's been struggling in training camp, I'm still going to bet on the upside. And then I took Devontae Smith, who's also going to get an insane amount of targets because of that thin wide receiver core in Philadelphia. So there we go. I took Kenyon Drake with the 8-11. I just needed RB3, and there wasn't really that many good ones left. Maybe A.J. Dillon, but I mean, A.J. Dillon doesn't have that PPR potential. And, Kenyon Drake's going to catch a lot of passes, I think. I think he's going to be the pass catching back there in Las Vegas. I don't think, Las Vegas paid Kenyon Drake a lot of money just to do nothing. He's gonna catch some passes. He's gonna take some carries away from Josh Jacobs. So, in the 8th round, there's kind of some upside to it. And then Brandon Cooks at the 9-2, who could potentially start over Devontae Smith or even Ja'Marr Chase. He could give you some wide receiver 2 games, Brandon Cooks can. When you look at his stats last year, I mean, this guy was insane with Deshaun Watson. He starts like 28% of rosters, which is insane for a 9th rounder. But, I mean, he started out pretty slow. I mean, he had a 14.5 game, which isn't absolutely terrible. I think that's pretty good for PPR. But then he had 30 points. He had 30 points in week 5, 21 points in week 6, 13 points in week 7, 17.3 points in week 9, 12.5, 13.5, 11.5, 11.9, 27.1, and then 39.6 in the last week. Guys, this is not, you don't find receivers like this in the 9th round. You don't. So, I mean, Deshaun Watson's probably not playing. So I understand that. But if you're in PPR, and this is a PPR mock draft, and if you get this guy in the 9th round, I think he could be a potential steal. He isn't on the Steelers. He's on the Texans. But this is where it changes. He's got Tyrod Taylor throwing to him instead of Deshaun Watson. So I'd still draft him in the ninth. He's going to be a wide receiver 3 for you. I got him as my wide receiver 4, and he could potentially put up wide receiver 2 numbers. I took Alexander Madison. He's going to be you'd be handcuffed to Dalvin Cook. That's kind of the only reason why I kind of drafted him maybe a round too early, but I thought, it's a 10th round. Who cares? And the running backs ahead of him, I mean, Kenny Gainwell, Naheem Hines, nothing special. Gus Edwards, yeah. So there's really nothing you could lose out there. So I took Alexander Madison, and then I went around and took Darnell Mooney, who I think has a ton of breakout potential. I really love the wide receivers I drafted in this draft. So, but Darnell Mooney, second-year guy, he played pretty dang well in training camp, and this is his his PPR stats were not good, but that was just with terrible QB play. He had 17.9 points, he had 10.7, 16.5, and then 20.3. So he had some pretty good games for being the wide receiver 55. He has tons of potential. He's a great route runner. Even for him being so fast, he is just such a great route runner, which is just such an amazing combination for wide receiver in this league. So, just to get him at the 11-2, I know I'm a Bears fan. I get it. But, man, I think he's really going to break out. And a lot of people also think that as well. He's a clear-cut wide receiver, too, in Chicago. And, his potential with Justin Fields as well, his ceiling goes up as well. Because I spoke on Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson has an underrated ceiling. You're just like, why Allen Robinson's never going to be the wide receiver, top 5 wide receiver, right? But he's not going to fall past a wide receiver 12. He's not going to finish. That he's not going to finish anything lower than a wide receiver 1. And that's what you love about Allen Robinson. You're going to get, what you're going to get out of Allen Robinson. But this year, his ceiling is higher than it was in previous years because of the quarterback that he has now. Whether it be Andy Dalton or Justin Fields. Like, Andy Dalton's better. In camp, we have seen Andy Dalton be way better than what Nick Foles or Mitch Trubisky was ever in probably their whole careers. Except maybe, Nick Foles had that 26 touchdown, 2 interception year, which was pretty good. So, and then we have Chuba Hubbard. Depending on, Christian McCaffrey could get injured again. Chuba Hubbard is next guy up for the Panthers. So, I do like that pick. And then I picked Terrace Marshall, so another Panthers guy. So I think he could be the wide receiver 2 right away the wide receiver 3, excuse me, for Terrace Marshall, because Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore are there. But I think he could be really good. I think, the Carolina Panthers do really like Terrace Marshall. So, and I liked him coming. I think he was an underrated receiver coming out of college. So, he had some first round buzz, and then he completely fell all the way to the 3rd round. I think he might have been selected in the 2nd. I could be wrong about that, but that was my mock draft there. I look at some other teams. Don't love the running backs on this team, but my running backs weren't spectacular either. So, Alvin Kamara, Dave Montgomery, Keenan Allen, Miles Sanders. Don't like the Miles Sanders. I felt like you could have gotten Jamar Chase, or you could have gotten Brandon Ayuk and Deontay Johnson over Miles Sanders. That's the thing. You should always value running backs, right? You should always value running backs over receivers at some points in time. But if you're going to take Miles Sanders when you already have your RB1 and RB2, if you're going to take Miles Sanders over, at Adam Thielen, I would be okay with taking him over Adam Thielen, but over Deontay Johnson, over Brandon Ayuk, That's got to be really tough. Over Robbie Anderson, even. I'm a big Robbie Anderson guy. That's got to be really tough. Because you also have to look at, Miles Sanders is probably going to score less points than Brandon Ayuk this year. Or Deontay Johnson. You know how many? Deontay Johnson is going to get us an insane amount of targets in Pittsburgh. An insane amount of targets. So, and you could still go down to these rounds. Round 7, Jamal Williams could get more carries than Miles Sanders. I don't think that's out of the question. Even James Robinson could get more carries than Miles Sanders. Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin. Like, you should value the running back position most definitely. But if you're going to take your RB3 Miles Sanders when you could have a pretty good wide receiver 2 in, Deontay Johnson or Brandon Ayuk, I would do it. I would not take Miles Sanders over Brandon Ayuk just because they're a running back. You just don't force a running back pick just because they're a running back. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get at. So, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good 4 running back tandem nonetheless. But your wide receiver 2 is Courtland Sutton, which, I mean, he could be a pretty good wide receiver 2 when healthy, but you still don't know. And you also took Michael Thomas here. I mean, he's not going to play for a while. And, Courtland Sutton, the same thing. I mean, not the same thing. He could be ready week 1. So, yeah. So you're betting on an injured guy becoming your wide receiver 2 in a few weeks through into the season, who also could ask for a trade from the Saints, or Courtland Sutton, who's more likely a flex option for you. And you're also betting on 2 rookies. So that's kind of what you put yourself. That's kind of and you could also have drafted, Kyle Pitts, as I did, instead of having to draft Dallas Goedert all the way in round 9. All right, so Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, DeAndre Swift. I just don't like DeAndre Swift at all. So I would have taken Chris Carson ahead of DeAndre Swift, if I'm being honest. I would have taken... I don't know if I would have taken Josh Jacobs. I think they're honestly in the same boat, Josh Jacobs and DeAndre Swift. So, but Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Carson would have looked so much better. But that's just my opinion. So I still like the approach there. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Godwin. I don't know if I love Chris Godwin this year. I don't think he's going to get an insane amount of targets as maybe people thought a year ago. And I think it's going to remain the same. I do love Antonio Brown in the 9th round. I think that's an absolute steal for him. I think he's going to be more involved with the offense for a year. They went back and re-signed him. So, and Tom Brady loves him. So Myles Gaskin as an RB3 is pretty solid. I will give him that. Kenny Golladay, again, injured wide receiver, but luckily he's your wide receiver 3, so you don't have to depend on him much. Leonard Fournette, another Tampa Bay guy. Noah Fant in the 8th round is pretty nice, I guess. Jalen Hurts in the 9th, pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Corey Davis in the 10th. I do like Russell Gage and Marvin Jones in the 12th and 13th. That's a pretty good value there. Well, it's not pretty good values. They're pretty good sleepers, I should say. Zeke Elliott and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't like Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year. I think when you're drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you're betting on upside that just isn't there. I mean, when you look at what happened last year, how does anything change this year? Nothing on the offense changed. So, except maybe Le'Veon Bell not being there, but I don't see how anything changes with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, mean, except that, I mean, you're drafting him as your running back 2 instead of him being running back 1 last year. He was drafted all the way up at RB 5 or something. I like Zeke this year though. Darren Waller, Julio Jones. I don't like Thielen or Beckham, so you're kind of screwed with your RB wide receiver 2s and 3s, in my opinion. And then so you're depending on Michael Pittman, who doesn't even have potential this year because Carson Wentz is going to be out for a few weeks. And, Tyler Boyd is going to be a wide receiver 3 in Cincinnati. So don't know if I like that. So I feel like I'm winning the draft so far. So now we look at Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, and Josh Jacobs. I think that's a pretty good 3-headed monster at the running back position. Nothing too flashy, of course, but you got at least 2 guys who are very efficient with their carries and a guy that was efficient with his carries, and hopefully he could return to that form. But if I were them, I would take in Chris Carson. I think that running back tandem would have looked a lot better if Chris Carson was the running. I don't know why people are taking Jacobs over Carson. That's insane to me. Wow. All right. And then we got Tyler Lockett. We got Deontay Johnson. We got Jerry Jeudy. That's a nice little wide receiver tandem there. Debo there too. I mean, that's good for wide receivers. But the thing is here, that's the issue there. You only took 4 wide receivers and you have a bunch of running backs. I guess you could drop some of those running backs down later in the year and take another wide receiver. So I get that approach. I do. Because a lot of wide receivers end up on the waiver wire that are and actually end up pretty good. Like I picked up Justin Jefferson off the waiver wire last year, and he was amazing for me. So Aaron Jones, George Kittle, and Chris Carson. I don't know if I would have taken George Kittle in the 2-6. I think that's way too early for him. But when you look at his receivers anyway, I mean, I love his running backs and I love his receivers too, even though either of them have are wide receiver 1s right now. So you're kind of betting on a huge upside there. But I do think both of them could have wide receiver 1 potential. Maybe not so much Ayuk, but definitely DJ Moore. Chase Edmonds is a wide receiver 3. I mean, running back 3 is actually really good. Chase Edmonds is actually growing on me a bit. I wasn't too sure about him earlier in the offseason, but now, wow, I'm just keeping on bumping my mic. But now I think he's a pretty solid option if you draft him as your running back 3. I mean, he's a pretty good flex option. He's going to be splitting carries with James Conner probably, but he's going to get most of the receiving work, and he's going to, and in PPR, I'm pretty okay with. So there you go. Aaron Rodgers, the 7-7, I do like. I think Aaron Rodgers is kind of getting slept on because wasn't he I forget, was he the quarterback 1? I can't remember. I think no, he was a quarterback 2. But yeah, look at this. There's really nothing I need to say. His lowest game was a 5.8 against the Buccaneers, obviously, but there's nothing I need to say. I mean, I drafted Aaron Rodgers last year because it's just like, okay, well, maybe he'll return to form. I drafted him in like the 11th round or something. I thought maybe he'll return to form, And he definitely did. I definitely hit on that pick. I was very, very excited about that. So, yeah. Jalen Waddle, 8-6. I don't love Jalen Waddle, especially when, Will Fuller's there and, Devontae Parker's there, obviously. I'm concerned that he's not going to get very many targets, especially with Gesicki there as well. Excuse me. Wide receiver 3, I guess he's okay. And then Gallup, Hardman. I mean, he took 2 tight ends. So, actually, like most of these guys took 2 tight ends, which I think is interesting. Excuse me. So, yeah. Whew. I'm not going to look through any of these anymore. I mean, I do actually like this Eckler and Gibson. That's a juicy 2 running back tandem. And then we got McLaurin, Woods, Higgins, and Anderson. That's a pretty good wide receiver all by itself. And then Antonio Brown in the 8th. So he drafted pretty good wide receivers. He drafted Melvin Gordon, which I think is okay as a running back 3. And he's going to be a starter in Denver. He was a number 14 running back last year. Number 14. And in PPR, he was pretty decent. He had some pretty low games, though. I will say that. Like, too frequently, he was inconsistent. But he's the running back 1. That's not even a question in my opinion, because, I mean, sure, Javonte Williams was taking number 1 snaps with the number 1s in training camp. Yeah, because Melvin Gordon wasn't there, and now he is there, and we're all drafting Javonte, and I love Javonte Williams because, I'm a UNC football fan all the way. But we're drafting him betting on that he's a starter when he doesn't even have the job yet. So just calm down. I think the 5th round. What is the 5th round? Where is he getting taken here? I mean, he's being drafted in the early 6th round. That's a little early for my liking. So, yeah. And Damian Harris being taken in the 6th round. That's a little early. But I do love this guy's team. Ryan Tannehill in the 10th. That's insane. That's insane value right there. I think it's insane that Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, and Joe Burrow are all being taken before Ryan Tannehill. So I like this team, man. I think this team is probably the only team that beats me in this draft. So there you go. Alrighty. I think that's got to be about it. I do have to get the ball rolling here today. Go back to work and yeah. Got NFL Network on. I'm gonna get ready and get going.